So welcome everyone to the information session for interested applicants for the 2024 Stepping Up Technology Implementation Grant competition that is funded from the Office of Special Education Programs within the Office of Special Education and Rehabilitative Services within the U.S. Department of Education. My name is Anita Vermeer, and I'm a project officer at OSEP, and I'm the competition manager for this listing number of 84.327. So I just want to remind you and go over some caveats before diving into this information, is that the intent of this presentation is to provide some guidance and some information. It's a general summary of some information contained in the notice of inviting applications and that package. So it's really imperative that all prospective applicants read the entire notice, the application package, and any additional relevant information, such as newly common instructions for publishing and such. Also, this webinar, if you happen to come across it in a different place, we will have it located on the OSEP Ideas That Work .org. So the purpose of the OSEP technology program, these are the topics I'm going to go over. And first, that's going to be the first topic. And I'm going to go over the absolute priority and purpose of the Stepping Up technology. I'm going to go over some key terms that are defined in the notice, some application requirements and selection criteria, budget and additional requirements, and then there's some additional information I'll share with you at the end. So to start with is the eligible applicants. It is quite the range, as you will read in the notice, and I'll read the slide, that it's for state educational agencies, local educational agencies, such as including public charters, schools, institutions of higher ed, other public agencies, private nonprofit, freely associated states outlying areas, Indian tribes or tribal organizations, and also for-profit organizations. So the purpose of the program as a whole, we call it the ETech M2 program. It is to improve results for children with disabilities by promoting the development, demonstration, and use of technology. And that's a big piece of the Stepping Up. It's also to be supporting educational activities designed to be of educational value in the classroom. And other purposes within the program is providing captioning and video description and providing accessible educational materials for children with disabilities in a timely manner. So this particular priority and the funding has an absolute priority, which is use of artificial intelligence, we all know as the AI, to meet individual needs of students with disabilities through learning and assessment. It is to fund 4 cooperative agreements for 4 projects is our intention. And the estimated range of awards will be between $350,000 to $375,000 per year for a period of 5 years. So I think the best piece is to start with defining the terms. And so the biggest piece is artificial intelligence. We have a lot of that term out there, but by this notice, the term artificial intelligence has the meaning set forth in 15 U.S.C. 9401(3). And it means that it's a machine-based system that can be given a set of human-defined objectives, make predictions, recommendations, or decisions influencing real or virtual environments. Artificial intelligence systems use machine and human-based inputs to perceive real and virtual environments, abstracts such as perceptions into models through analysis in an automated manner, and use model interference to formulate options for information or action. So please keep in mind that this is the term that we're using. It does not have to be a specific type of AI per what you are hearing in media. It would be defined by this, and you would in your notice explain how it is this definition or how it is your AI to be used. Other terms that are commonly used that would be described in the footnotes are that educators can include teachers, early childhood providers, administrators, paraprofessionals, and the other providers, which can be a lot of other roles. Setting is an instructional setting, can be an environment that's regulated by the public school or an early childhood education program, such as defined under the Higher Education Act. And the third term on this slide is a site, which is a public school building or an early childhood education program, which is defined as the Higher Education Act. And one other important term is the evidence-based. So for the purposes of this priority, promising evidence means that there's evidence of the effectiveness of a key project component and improving a relevant outcome based on a relevant finding from one of the 3 factors. So you're going to need to look through the footnote on page A11 of the application package to to review that. And on E32 of the application package is an evidence of effectiveness form. Another important term is open licensing, and this is a requirement to openly license your public grant deliverables that are using those grant funds. However, please note that when the deliverable consists of modifications to pre-existing works, the license extends only to those modifications that can be separately identified and only to the extent that open licensing is permitted under the terms of any licenses or legal restrictions on the use of pre-existing works. So it was published, this notice, on March 1st, and the applications are due no later than Eastern Time, 11:59 on April 30th, 2024. Please note it can take up to 2 weeks for SAM.gov to process some requirements that you may need in order to complete that application submission. I'll explain that a little bit later. Reviewers will need to, we assume that reviewers will be completed by July 1st and that we will be able to make awards no later than September 30th, but we're hoping to do that sooner. So the competitive preference is if you're a new or a potential grantee where you have not had an active discretionary grant, and you would get a possible 3 additional points. So that is defined in the notice. So an important thing if you're considering to apply for this notice is the expected outcomes. There are 5 of them, and I'm going to read them, and then we'll go through other pieces. The improved student outcomes using an evidence-based technology tool or approach that integrates AI. The second one is improved educator use and knowledge of an evidence-based technology tool or approach using AI to deliver effective instruction to students with disabilities. The third outcome is improve educator collaboration and professional learning opportunities, focusing on improving outcomes for students with disability using an evidence-based technology-based tool or approach using AI. The fourth one is improved educator and family engagement regarding the use of an evidence-based technology-based tool or approach using AI to support student learning. And the fifth one is sustained use of the evidence-based technology-based tool or approach using AI by aligning its use with existing instructional priorities and initiatives. So the other thing is you need to be describing when you're submitting your application how the evidence-based technology tool or approach that's ready to use at the time of the application of your submission. If your AI component's not completed, you need to describe how it will be integrated within the first year and how it will enhance the current developed technology tool or approach. And also you need to describe how outcomes of students with disabilities will be improved by implementing the technology-based tool or approach using AI. And other things to describe is the approach to increase educators' use and knowledge of technology-based tool or approach using AI to improve student outcomes with disabilities in an instructional setting, and also describe how the fully accessible products and resources will help educators and families to effectively use and implement the technology-based tool or approach using AI. We also have a link with the NIST AI risk management, where you would be thinking about all of the AI managing risks that could be, it's a reference for you. So in your narrative, you will need to consider 5 areas, and there's also some selection criteria within it. So when you are looking at these 5 areas, I'll go over them in detail, and this is where the bulk of your application information will be submitted. So significance is the first section. It will address the need of a technology-based tool or approach that integrates AI. You're going to need to verify the tool or approach with the core components on the intervention that are at least promising evidence. You need to describe how the AI is going to be used with the tech tool or approach and have the potential to improve student outcomes. You're going to describe the current impact of the tech-based tool and approach, or approach that's currently developed, and include the population of your users, and also if you've had any federal funding within the last 3 years related to this technology tool to describe how it's impacted the reach and current use. You're also going to need to identify how using AI has improved educators' pedagogy and their capacity to deliver effective instruction for students with disabilities, identify how it will improve parent and family engagement or partnership to support student learning, and present applicable national, state, regional, or local data to demonstrate the need for this identified tech tool or approach using AI in order to enhance the student outcomes. And on the third slide to describe your significance is how will this proposed tech-based tool or approach using AI aligns with current policies, procedures, and practices used by educators to enhance the outcomes for students with disabilities, and identify our systemic barriers, gaps, or challenges, including challenges to using the identified tech tool or approach using AI. And so that narrative would be scored by our reviewers on 15 points. So these are the selection criteria that would on the slide, and you could have access to the slide if you wanted to download the PowerPoint and really go through how it's going to be scored, because things such as the significance of the proposed project, how it addresses the problem or issue, what gaps or weaknesses you've identified and how the proposed project will address those, also the potential contribution to increase knowledge or understanding or effective strategies. And the other piece of the significance scoring will be your ability to replicate the strategies and potential for implementation in a variety of settings. So the next section I'm going to go over is the quality of project services. This is quite a big section, and it's worth a little bit more in points, which I'll explain at the end. So a bulk of your narrative will be addressing this section. You're going to demonstrate how your proposed project will ensure equal access and treatment for members of your groups. You're going to identify the target population, including students with disabilities and their educators, and how the need for that population with this tech-based tool or approach and these intended recipients for ongoing professional learning and coaching support. And you're going to demonstrate how your products and resources will meet the needs of the intended recipients of this grant. You're also going to need to utilize a design process for the implementation approach that promotes sustainability of the tech-based tool or approach beyond the life of the project. Also describe how its goals, objectives, and intended outcomes, and provide measurable intended project outcomes. Will be based on current research. You'll need to describe how it aligns with current research, policies, practices, related to the benefits, service, or opportunities using the tech tool or approach, and describe how you'll incorporate current evidence-based research and practices, including research practices related to accessibility and usability, to guide the development and delivery of the products and resources. And you'll also have to describe in the proposed project how it's been tested, shown to have promised evidence, and addresses at least the minimal for UDL, which is Universal Design for Learning, to ensure it has multiple means of representation, multiple means of expression, and multiple means of engagement. And describe how the developing and implementing the products and resources are going to be high quality, sufficient intensity and duration to achieve the intended outcomes. And you'll have to explain a plan for recruiting and selecting the sites from a variety of instructional settings to include the targeted population, including students with disabilities. So part of the sites are listed in the notice, such as having 2 product and resource development sites, 3 pilot sites, and 5 dissemination sites. And a little later, I'll explain a kind of an example of how those are spread out throughout the years. But in the notice, it says by what year you should be moving on to which step of your types of sites. You also will need to describe how you're going to incorporate components of implementation science for selection of sites and supporting the sustained use of your selected sites. Provide a plan to systematically disseminate information about the tech tool or approach throughout various audiences. So this is about disseminating not just at the end of your project, but describing how throughout the 5 years you're going to promote awareness of its use, how you're going to tailor dissemination strategies within those technology refinements to ensure that by the end of year 2, the approach can be, or tool can be accessed, is reaching and is being used by intended recipients. You'll want to have a dissemination plan that goes beyond conference presentations and reach that is getting to your intended audiences, and increase the AI approach, the tech tool and using AI by the intended users. You'll also need to describe how the dissemination plan is connected to the outcomes of the project and how you're going to ensure digital products and external communications are routinely evaluated for and remediated if needed to meet or exceed government or industry recognized standards for accessibility, and provide assurances that all the products and tools with project funds will be open educational resources to the best you can. So this is the selection criteria. As you saw in another area, it was a smaller number of points. It is 30 for quality of project services. So there is a lot of selection criteria or indicators here describing such as, or factors here, describing up-to-date knowledge, the development services, how you're going to involve collaboration, how you're going to meet the needs of intended recipients, and how you're going to likely impact those services. The next section is quality of project evaluation. This is, you will want to provide a logic model or conceptual framework. You're going to link your plan to your proposed project's logic model or conception framework with a formative evaluation of the activities. The plan needs to describe how your formative evaluation is going to use clear performance objectives to ensure continuous improvement. And you're going to also describe a method for the pilot sites, educators, trainer use, and needs of the knowledge and availability of the dedicated on-site technology training personnel. You're going to need to have in your plan readiness of pilot sites to try out the technology tool, their current infrastructure, technology or alignment, and available resources, and also whether the AI is achieving intended outcomes. And also in your plan, the ongoing professional needs of educators implementing with fidelity. So those are the areas of assessing. And a couple others is the data of formative and summative to evaluate products and services. Also your dissemination efforts to see if you're increasing the knowledge and use by your intended users with this dissemination effort, and have a plan to collect summative data to report on the quality, relevance, and usefulness and efficacy of the tech tool of approach using AI and its resources. And by the end of the project, you'll want to have described some assurances so that by the end of the project, you have a project evaluation on the products and resources, including accessible features that enables other sites to implement and sustain implementation of your tech tool or approach. You're going to want to have submit a final performance report that will include implementation data and how all your intended users were using this tech-based tool or approach, and how it was implemented with fidelity and its effectiveness. So you're also going to need some data on how you're using educators, changing educators' practices, and include in your project evaluation a plan for continuing to disseminate and scale up beyond the sites that you're directly working with in this project. So this is a 20-point section of project evaluation. So you can go through the notice of inviting applications or this PowerPoint to see specifically how this section will be scored by our reviewers. The next area is adequacy of resources and quality of project personnel. So you need to describe how you're going to encourage applicants for employment and project activity opportunities from people who are members of groups that have been traditionally underrepresented. You're going to need to describe your key personnel, consultants, subcontractors, and such, And in your applicant, identify key partners that have adequacy resources that are going to help you carry out the proposed activities, including yourself and or your own entity, and describe how your costs are reasonable in relation to the anticipated results and benefits. This section is 20 points as well, and you can just read in the notice of inviting applications or on the PowerPoint how specifically that will be assessed by our reviewers. The other section, quality of management plan. You will want to propose a management plan that ensures your outcomes will be achieved on time and on budget. And you need to define your responsibilities for the personnel, consultants, subcontractors as applicable, describe timelines and milestones for accomplishing the project tasks. You want to also demonstrate how your key project personnel are going to be, their time is going to be allocated and it's appropriate for your outcomes, how the plan will ensure products and resources are high quality, relevant, and useful, how you will benefit from a diversity of perspectives, including those from families, educators, researchers, and policymakers in the development and operation. And this section is 15 points. So things such as how you're going to achieve the objectives, the timelines, and things like that, and diversity is a component of this. So overall, to review, these are the 5 selection criteria areas: significance, 15 points, quality of project services, 30, quality of project evaluation, 20, adequacy of resources and quality of project personnel, 20, quality of management plan, 15. There are some additional requirements and information that I'm going to provide with you. And today, that is, again, encourage you to read the notice specifically for that information. You need to provide a budget for all 5 years, the 60 months. You should include in your budget some attendance at some meetings, such as kickoffs in Washington, D.C. meeting, project directors conference in Washington, D.C. that's generally held in the summers, and an annual trip to attend various other meetings as requested by our office. You need to submit your logic model or conceptual framework, personnel loading charts, timelines. You need to make positive efforts to employ and advance employment for qualified individuals with disabilities in their activities, and also in involving people with disabilities or parents ages birth through 26 in planning, implementing, and evaluating your project. Subgrantees is a question we sometimes get, so I put together a slide on that, that you are eligible to award subgrants in this competition to carry out the activities. And you can award some grants to any entities if it's identified in your application. And when you are, it's considered an approved application when you are awarded and have your first discussion with your project officer at the department. You will review all of those subgrantees as well as other factors. So the estimated range of awards, as I said, is $350,000 to $375,000 per year. We're not going to be able to exceed more than $375,000 a year for a single budget period of 12 months. So ensure your application is that amount or less. We anticipate 4 awards for 60 months per award. Now, there is a recommendation that your application narrative is no more than 50 pages. So you will be using putting a lot of information in your appendices, because a page is listed in the NIA as being 8.5 by 11 with 1-inch margins, and it talks about double spacing, and a 12-point or larger is recommended. There are some other information I just wanted to point out that we're hoping to be a starting date of August 1st to those winning applications, those awardees. I wanted to call attention to the difference between development and implementation. For example, these are implementation grants, so a minimum amount of development of technology should be occurring because it's just the type of the grant, but we recognize minor tweaks in technology will need to take place because you're adjusting your technology into authentic settings, and that's part of what the development phases are. The expectation for dissemination and scale up is that by year 5, you have a project that, a tech tool or approach that can be more widely used among sites. So the budgeting and timeline schedule is going to depend on your proposal, but I put together a few samples just to help you. Note, this is an example, so you can propose your own schedule. You may want to do 2 sites in year 1 with product and resource development, 2 sites in your pilot study in year 2, then maybe, because there's an expectation to have 3 pilot sites, so maybe by the end of year 3, so maybe you do 2 in year 2 and 1 in year 3, and then you begin your dissemination activities. The dissemination study is expected to be done by the end of year 4, so that way year 5, you can really focus on that scale up and dissemination. This is a sample 2, whereas, maybe you stick with product and resource development sites in your year 1, but you only have 1 pilot site in year 2 and 2 pilot sites in year 3. So here's a couple of budget examples that you might appreciate. Do note that in the notice, it says that up to $200,000 of funds awarded in the first budget period can be used for development activities. So in this particular example, they're planning on using the full 200 for technology enhancements. It's not just development activities, but it's the technology enhancement component that is clarified in the notice. And then the other 150 on other. In this example, you'll see they didn't ask for 375. In the 5th year, they only asked for 350. So that is up to you. The second sample, maybe the tech tool is pretty much ready to go. The AI is all embedded. They only need 100,000 for technology enhancements, and they can put another 175 on the other components of their project. And then maybe in year 2, because they're only going to work with one pilot study, they're only going to ask for 350. So those are all kind of some variants examples that you can work through. Note, there is a new section, a new form for the GEPA statement, which stands for the General Education Provisions Act. So it does have 4 questions, and if you don't answer those, it may give you error message that you need to answer a question. There are 2 slides in this PowerPoint with some extra information, but the notice does direct you to the form, and the forms have instructions on them as well. So I'm going to move to, this is a common question I've gotten in the past. UEI and SAM, formerly DUNS. The UEI is a universal type of number, a number assigned to your entity. It used to be called DUNS, and basically it's the number that your application will be using when you are registering on the grants.gov website. So I do know that if you don't have this number in time, it would be really hard to continue processing your application. There is fsd.gov has some more information on some of these details. Just quick review. They're going to be, applications are due by midnight Eastern time or 11:59 Eastern time on April 30th. We anticipate by July 1st to have our internal reviews done. Oops. And all reviews, all applicants will be given some review and feedback. So that is helpful for all applicants. And we will make the awards no later than September 30th. Just some final tips. You should read the entire notice to ensure it aligns with the information that's required and requested. Do read the footnotes. I went over quickly the definitions. You want to make sure they align with your proposal. Refer to the outcomes and align them with your framework or logic model. Clearly describe your evidence of at least promising and how it relates to the tech tool or approach that is already developed, and if applicable, how any modifications may or may not impact that evidence. And give yourself some time to get other pieces in place, such as the G5 submissions. I can be reached at anita.vermeer@ed.gov or my phone number. I prefer email first, but am happy to jump on a call if that works at any time. If you need some help with some other grant details, the support@grants.gov link is there for you. And also we do invite you to follow us at ed.gov/OSERS/OSEP. And there are some other links on this last slide. Thank you very much. And I look forward to hearing from you if you have any questions. Thanks.